Hi, Rob here from Marine Industrial. Today we are talking about Sikaflex 298 bedding compound. So Sikaflex 298 bedding compound is a single component moisture curing bedding compound, basically. Really super low viscosity, which is ideal for combing out over areas like decks, or decking areas, or even stuff in your house, to be fair. If you want to lay down solid oak flooring or something like that, Sika 298 is great for it. Only available in one colour, which is brown. To be honest with you, it doesn't really matter because it's all going to be underneath something anyway. Really, it's kind of one of those products where it doesn't need a technical sale. It's super elastic, it's super low viscosity. In terms of pre-prep, to be fair, when you're talking about large surface areas, really you don't need to look at any massive amount of pre-treatment. Normally we're always talking about Sika primers and activators and pre-treatments. With 298, because the surface areas are so big, really as long as the surface is clean and well abraded, you're good to go straight on with 298. So that's the technical side of stuff. So let's go and have a look at actually gunning out some material. Cool, so right, we're going to gun out some of the Sika 298. So what I've done is I've got a couple of panels here, aluminium panels again, just to replicate bonding down a piece of deck to a fiberglass panel. So the first things first, as we said earlier, surface prep is not super critical because of the areas we're talking about. However, we do recommend increasing the surface area on shiny surfaces, things like gel coat. If it's really shiny, let's definitely increase the surface area by using something like a 3M Scotch-Brite pad. Again, we're not looking at being overly critical, but certainly on areas like edges where there's going to be subjected to peel, especially on fluctuations on temperature, always good to be a little bit extra vigilant on edges. Cool, so we've increased the surface area using a little bit of the 3M Scotch-Brite pad. The next thing is going to be just to make sure we've got fingerprint marks, grease, grime, dust off that surface. We're just using a little bit of pure acetone. Acetone, there are loads of different varieties out there on the market. Some of it's going to be recycled. They will generally have a lot of contamination mixed in with it. So when you're buying acetone, whether it's ours or somebody else's, please make sure you're buying pure acetone. It is a little bit more expensive, but it means the difference between potentially a failure and not. So pure acetone. So we're just going to apply this to some lint-free rag, some clean lint-free rag. And again, just in a singular motion, wiping that surface just to remove any contamination. We'll do that to both sides of the substrate. This stuff flashes off super quick. So literally, I can see in this warm warehouse where we're talking like 18, 19 degrees C, pretty much ready to go now. So earlier we talked about not requiring a great deal of surface prep. One thing you can do, and we do sort of recommend it to be honest with you, is maybe just on the peripheral, on the outside 2 inches, 50 mil of the perimeter of the deck, just apply some of the Sika Activator 205. It is a cleaner and it also does leave some adhesion promoter. So this is kind of like your insurance policy. It's not super critical, but we would always advise just on the outside 2 inches, especially on non-porous substrates like fiberglass or aluminium, just apply some of this. So we'll pop that off. We'll get some fresh lint-free rag. And in a singular motion, on the outside 2 inches, just look to wipe. And this stuff flashes off pretty quick, 20 minutes or so, probably less than that. In fact, you can see it here now, evaporating off, but we'll leave that a good 10-15 minutes just to flash. Cool, right, so that's the substrate all prepped and primed and ready to go, flashed off. So now we're going to get into getting some 298 down on the panels. Right, so we're now going to dispense this onto our surface. We can do that fairly rudimentarily, just to get some out on there. We can work this out onto the surface. Put this to one side. We sell these spreaders. They're actually West System spreaders, but they're great. They've got different graduations on them for combing out bedding compound to the different level that you need it to. So we're going to be using the middle comb spreader on here. So in here you've got around about 2 mil, 2.5 mil of triangle bead. We'll just work this onto the area. just to get it out to the surface. What you can do as well, if you want a really super neat job, is you can actually look to apply a 1/2 inch bit of masking tape all the way around the perimeter. Apply the bedding compound up to it, and then before you put that back down, rip the masking tape off, and then you know when you get squeeze out, you're not going to get so much that it's going to come out and ruin the aesthetics of the deck or cause you a lot of mess and clean up thereafter. But just for the sake of this purpose, we're going to not bother with the masking tape. So once we've got it worked out into an area that we're happy with, we can then look to make sure that we comb that out. Now the best way to comb this out is to do it from the narrowest part, and that will allow the galleries of the comb to escape the air the most efficient way. The air can then escape at the shortest distance to travel rather than having to travel the whole length of a deck. So if this was a deck, obviously we'll scale that right up to maybe 30 feet. You obviously want to try and get the air out in the most effective way, and that's better to do it with lots of small galleries going widthways. And you can see here just how easy this product is to comb out. It's super low viscosity. You know, there's absolutely no effort required here. I mean, you could use something like Sika 291. We did a review on that earlier. Just click up here to see that. This would do the same sort of thing, but it would be much harder to comb out. This is a much lower viscosity product. It's made for the job. So I'm happy with that. We can now look to bond the two pieces together. So we're going to pretend that this is the deck that we're going to be putting onto the boat. And to do that, pretty straightforward really. We're just going to put the two pieces together. Now we're just going to be applying pressure by hand here. In terms of doing it, scaling it up onto a large deck, if you've got prefabricated decks, if you're doing strip decks, strip teak decks, obviously you can do it plank by plank. You can apply weight by hand or use weights. If you're doing it on a large pre-made deck, you want to look to either do have a large amount of weights in a small area at one time, or even better still, look to use vacuum bagging, where basically you encapsulate the deck under a bag, you seal it all up, and use a vacuum pump to exhaust all of the atmospheric air out from underneath the bag, and you can get a huge amount of pressure that way, and that's consistent. The vacuum pump can stay on overnight. You've got consistent pressure. You'll be using weights, unless you keep those weights consistently placed over the deck. What you can get is high and low spots, where obviously you get the pressure of the weight pushing down on the deck and then it springing back up again. So you just want to be mindful of that. Now, it's a moisture curing product, as we talked about earlier. You just got to be bearing in mind that there's moisture in the atmosphere. So as soon as that comes out of that sachet, it's going to start that acceleration process of curing. So when you're talking about large decks, the atmospheric air content is going to be plenty sufficient enough to cause that product to go to solidify and cure as it should do. So that pretty much sums up everything for Sikaflex 298. If you've got any questions, if you're in the trade and you want to know more about Sikaflex or any of the products that we sell or how we can help you as a distributor, give us a call on 01692 406 822 or look us up at marineindustrial.co.uk.